everybody, this is Fan95, and today I'm going to be doing reviews of 3 movies I have seen in the month of July to this point, and they are Terminator Genisys, Minions, and Ant-Man, all seen in that order in this month. So I wanted to do individual reviews, but at the beginning of the month, I had like 2 weeks of like headaches and stuff, and it was just not pleasant. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go see Ant-Man. I'm gonna combine them into 3 reviews, 3 shorter reviews rather than 3 long reviews. So that's what I'm gonna be doing today. So first of all, we're gonna be talking about the least favorite of the 3, and this actually surprised me that this was my least favorite of the 3 heading into the month. I would have expected it to not be like this, but my least favorite was the Minions movie. And now I'm a big fan of Despicable Me 1 and 2, so to go into Minions and come out a little disappointed was a bit of a surprise, but at the same time it was slightly expected because of the focus on the Minions. The Minions are great supporting characters that you can turn to for comedy and stuff like that, but as being the protagonists of the story themselves, it kind of fell a little flat and got a little old. Now, what's funny is that the funniest part of the movie for me in Minions was the very beginning when the Universal logo came up and they started like singing the Universal theme. I thought that was hilarious, and I was like, well, maybe my hesitation about this movie heading into it isn't going to be maybe it's going to be, you know, an okay movie. But, unfortunately, the next half hour, I felt like I already saw the movie, which was a problem because of all the trailers they showed, all of the things leading up to them heading to America, I've seen in the trailers pretty much. One thing I did notice that they left out was this guy getting impaled. I wonder if they were, you know, for some reason it would have been pushing maybe like a PG-13 rating because the guy got impaled or something or not, and they just decided to take it out. Maybe it was kind of pushing the PG rating, who knows, but I noticed that was taken out. And so the problem with this movie is just that it gets too much. The Minions they cannot be the protagonists of their story. Now, for little kids, I'm sure this was a very enjoyable movie because the Minions are the favorite parts of Despicable Me for them. And now a lot of, you know, adults and young adults like the Minions and think they're great characters, but a movie just focusing on them just proved to be not as successful with the older crowd, I think. Now with the young crowd, oh, they're hilarious, you know, but for, you know, an older crowd, it kind of gets a little old and you need that greater story like Despicable Me gives with Gru and the kids. Now, at the end of the movie, when you have young Gru come in, it's like, okay, I want to see a little bit more now. I want to see them interact with young Gru, but that proved to not happen. And now if they're going to end up doing another prequel with young Gru, then, you know, that'd be cool. But just having the Minions and following them around and having them, you know, try to find a boss, which ended up being Scarlet Overkill, it was, you know, it was lackluster, I feel. There were some funny moments, but there were just too much that was lacking. And Scarlet Overkill as a villain, at first I started to like the character because of her, you know, it seemed like she liked the Minions, yet she was still bad. She told them that, like, that bedtime story, like, where she would, you know, practically kill them if they screwed up. But I still found her a likable character. But when it was, I want to say Bob ended up becoming president, not president, the Queen, no, not the Queen, brain freeze, when Bob ended up becoming the king, because he pulled the sword out of the stone, then Scarlet got mad at them because they betrayed her. But what happened was they ended up making a new rule. They gave her the title of the Queen, but she was still mad at them for betraying her, which I found kind of like a weird plot device to keep it going. So I feel like that that part of the plot didn't work well for me because they gave her, you know, she was the Queen of England because of them. They happily gave that to her, yet she was still angered at them. So that was a big problem I had with the movie. So overall, what did Minions need? Minions needed not the Minions as the protagonist. Maybe they could have gotten around making a quote-unquote Minions movie, yet still have like at least a 50-50 focus with another main character. But just having the Minions there throughout the entire movie, speaking the way they do, it was just a little too much, and it needed more of a plot, I think. But it was an okay movie. I was kind of waiting for it to end at the end, but, you know, it did not tarnish Despicable Me, I think. You know, because, you know, it didn't do anything bad to the overall Despicable Me history. So that was my views on Minions. Now let's go ahead. Now the next two movies, Ant-Man and Terminator Genisys. So with these two, I'm just gonna make a toss of the coin thing of which one I'm gonna talk about first. I'll go ahead and talk about Terminator Genisys first. Now, here's the thing with these two movies. I enjoyed Terminator Genisys more than Ant-Man as far as this was a fun movie. But I did think that Ant-Man was a more solid, rounded film that was better, I guess you could say. So it's kind of I'm mixed between these two movies. So let's go ahead and talk about Terminator Genisys. So, or should I call it Terminator Days of Future Past? So this movie erases everything from Terminator 1 through Salvation. Everything is just wiped out. You have John Connor being attacked as Kyle Reese goes through the time machine, and all of a sudden you have a Terminator going to Sarah Connor when she was 9 years old. Her parents died, and fast forward to 1984, and she knows everything about the Terminators, and she saves Kyle Reese from a Terminator. So I think this movie, what it has going for it is that I liked how it revisited 1984, and I like that whole idea of the time travel situation. The timelines have changed, and yet so when Kyle Reese goes back, I like that whole aspect of, redoing everything. And CGI Arnold Schwarzenegger, the younger version of him, it was flawless. It was great. I really loved all the reenacting scenes. I thought that they were amazing. The only nitpick I have was that the three punk guys did not seem exactly... I think they were too far away from their original incarnations. But, I don't know, maybe there was some kind of reason they couldn't do it that way. I don't know, but the hairstyles and stuff were not close enough, in my opinion. I think they should have gone a little bit more closer, considering everything else was pretty much spot on. Even some were, almost exact same shots. I noticed there were some people that actually thought they were reused, but, of course they can't do that because of all the HD stuff and everything. But they were pretty spot on. Even the lightning effects in the very beginning when Arnold Schwarzenegger's Terminator comes to 1984, it's like they weren't the best of it they could be in order to kind of copy the look from the first Terminator, and I thought that was pretty cool. So they wiped out all the movies. So I'm considering. I'm not going to talk too much about the plot because the plot is very, very complex, and I kind of want to do a talk about, what happened per se, because there's a lot to talk about there. Maybe I'll do that with maybe like a round table with a couple friends of mine. We are all kind of interested in that Terminator lore of history there, so maybe we'll see that in the future, but I don't know since it's so far away from the release of the movie. So maybe when the DVD comes out or something, we'll do that. So let's go ahead and talk about the characters. We have Sarah Connor, played by Emilia Clarke, and I thought that she did a great job of being that Linda Hamilton character from the first Terminator movie. I thought she fit the role well. I thought she did a great job, and she was just, a great replacement, I think. Now, I know there were some people that were saying she was kind of too cute and petite to play the role, but we're also talking about different timelines, and we're not looking at the same actress that played Sarah Connor in Terminator 2, which was a lot more beefed up and stuff because of all the psycho all the exercising she did and stuff in between the first and second Terminator. So I thought she was a great imitation of the first Terminator, Sarah Connor. So I thought she did a great job. No real complaints from the standpoint of looking at her as the actress. So now for Kyle Reese, this Courtney guy, he seems to be in a lot of movies, and he just, I don't know, I think he's very stale, I think. Was he a good actor for Kyle Reese? I don't think so. I think there could have been some better choices out there, but he did okay, but I didn't come out of the movie thinking about Kyle Reese. In the first Terminator movie, Kyle Reese was, this character that you remembered, and in Terminator Genisys, it wasn't like that. It was a very forgettable character just due to the way he was portrayed by his actor. But since the character wasn't as important as the first Terminator movie, and this one it more focused on Sarah Connor, John Connor, and Arnold Schwarzenegger is the Guardian, they called him in this one. I didn't see it as such a big issue, but it was an issue nonetheless for me. I mean, he didn't do horrible, but it was, okay performance. So now let's look at Arnold Schwarzenegger as the Guardian, or AKA Pops. I thought that Arnold Schwarzenegger was a great older Terminator with a sense of humor. I thought that he really nailed the humor, and he just did a great job as playing that Guardian character for Sarah Connor. And I just really liked the way how his character has kind of developed, even though it's not the same Terminator in each Terminator movie. But he just kind of takes on a slightly more loving persona with each Terminator movie. Of course, excluding Salvation, which really wasn't Arnold Schwarzenegger. And then we have John Connor. Now, John Connor, of course, became a Terminator. Was I thrilled about this? Not really. But I lived with it because it was an interesting idea to have John Connor become a Terminator. So I feel like Christian Bale would have been better to come on. I'm not a fan of the actor that played John Connor in this one. I never really got to like him at all. And when I think of him, I think bad guy. So it was kind of hard for me to sympathize with John Connor in this movie when he, was forcibly turned into a bad guy. Now, what I did really like, which was a nice subtle touch, was when he was kind of glued to the MRI machine in the hospital. He had kind of the tear coming out of his eye and stuff. And that was a moment when I did really feel for his character. Now, even though I see the actor as someone that plays a good bad guy, if they kind of would have kept that internal struggle within him throughout the movie, I felt like I would have had more of a connection to him. But I didn't, because this is the first time we've seen him play John Connor, so I didn't really have that same connection I would if we had maybe Christian Bale come back from Salvation or something. But I do feel like that internal struggle throughout the movie would have been a nice touch to kind of help you be more connected to him. And you saw it that once when he kind of had a tear flow down his cheek and stuff, but that was it. That's all you saw. Now, I would have liked Now, when he was fighting with Arnold Schwarzenegger at the end inside of the time machine that was still being constructed, I would have liked for him to maybe try and have that like internal struggle of trying to fight the Terminator that he had become. I think that would have been kind of cool and show that this is still John Connor, and he would maybe go on to sacrifice himself or something like that. I think that would have been cool. But it was not to happen, and John Connor so far does not exist right now in the Terminator universe, which is weird. So, the plot was extremely confusing in this movie overall. Even after coming off of a marathon of Terminator movies, I watched all 4 Terminator films the day before, or 2 days. I did it within 1 day or 2 days, I think, before seeing Terminator Genisys, and the plot was still confusing to me. So it was definitely out there. If you really think about it, then you have kind of a decent idea of what's happening, but it's a very complicated movie, definitely a complicated plot. And so I don't even think the writers knew 100% what they were doing when they were writing this. I think they were like, let's just make this happen just because, and we'll just blame it on some type of timeline, time machine nonsense, and just call it a day, because it's so just like it's complex at this point where really nothing makes complete sense. It's like, unless you take like a half hour of screen time just to explain what's happening. So it was definitely a crazy plot, but I enjoyed the movie. It was a lot of fun, and I really liked it. So now let's move on to Ant-Man, and Ant-Man is another movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I gotta say, I liked it. I thought it was a pretty solid movie. Now, like I said, I enjoyed Terminator Genisys more, but Ant-Man was a very solid film. It wasn't toward the top, maybe like an Iron Man or a Captain America Winter Soldier, but I enjoyed it. It was a good movie, good solid cast, and it was entertaining. So the action was good, and I really did like how when Ant-Man struck down, they used some camera tricks to kind of get that microscopic look to everything. I thought that was really cool. Plus the use of the CGI was great as well. So let's go ahead and look at the characters. First we have Scott Lang, who is Ant-Man, and I thought Paul Rudd did a very good job of this character. I did like how he was kind of like the father, and he had a family and stuff, and he kind of had a tough life, and this is something that we're seeing as something new as a Marvel superhero in this universe. I mean, yeah, we have kind of like Black Widow's troubled past and stuff, but this is more like down to earth. He was he had some, trouble with the law, and he divorced his wife, and he has this young daughter, and I kind of like that part of the movie, just to kind of show that this is a grounded superhero. And I thought he did the role of Ant-Man, very well. I thought he did a great job. And so now we have Hank Pym, who was played by Michael Douglas, and I thought Michael Douglas did a great job with this character. He was the great wise mentor, and I thought he was actually probably the strongest human character. I thought that he did, just overall great job with as playing Hank Pym, and I thought also the de-aging of him in the flashback at the beginning of the movie, where we saw Agent Peggy Carter and Howard Stark. I thought that was really cool how they did that. So now we have Darren Cross, which is the main villain of the film. He is Yellow Jacket, and I thought that he could have been better. I know Marvel has kind of a history of having maybe like some villains on the weaker side as far as character development. Guardians of the Galaxy is something that comes to mind, even though Guardians of the Galaxy is a very good movie. I thought that the Ronan was not the best villain, And the same as in this movie. I thought Ant-Man was overall a solid film, but they could have done more with the villain. He, did all he did because, of like money and stuff, and then you kind of threw in Hydra there at the end, which is kind of cool because it, references the greater Marvel Cinematic Universe, but it also felt kind of random, and also he just kind of had like daddy issues with Hank Pym. I mean, it was like, I'm doing this because, you know, you didn't trust me or whatever, or stuff like that. I mean, it was kind of weird. But, so that, the villain was my greatest, I wouldn't say dislike of the film, but greatest, I guess, problem. If it had, you know, even though it wasn't a big problem with the movie, I'd say it would be the greatest, you know, like, problem. So, now we'll talk about Hope, who will go on to play Wasp in the next Ant-Man film or wherever they see her. I know she's not going to be in Captain America Civil War, but wherever she appears, she will be Wasp now. And I thought that she was a good, solid character. You know, nothing truly amazing, but I thought she did a great job with the role. And, you know, good overall, you know, aspect to the character. So, overall, I enjoyed Ant-Man. It was a very good movie. I would have liked to see a little bit more of the flashbacks, you know, maybe see a little bit more of Peggy and what kind of like the role that she had in kind of like all of this with, you know, like Pym and stuff like that. But I really enjoyed the film, and I could not wait until Captain America Civil War. And that end credits scene was really cool. I was glad to see a actual scene that is going to be in the middle of Captain America Civil War. So I really can't wait for that. So that was my review of the July movies that I have seen so far. Now I know that Pixels comes out in this month as well, as so does Mission Impossible 5. Yeah, Rogue Nation. So those are two movies that I'm going to see, but I don't know if I'm going to be seeing them in the month of July. Give my wallet a little bit of a break maybe, but I'm going to be seeing those movies, so expect reviews for those as well. So I hope you enjoyed this very long episode. I don't even know how long I've been doing this, but it's been a while, and I wonder how long that has been up. Stupid computer. So anyway, that just ruined my whole background thing. Man. I was going to have that pretty background for you guys and everything to watch while I yak about the 3 movies. So, anyways, oh well. So, until next time, I'm on Fantasy 95. See you guys.